Welcome back. You're watching Media Dialogues, and to understand the world of podcasting, I'm talking today to Dhruvank Vaidya. He heads podcasts for Spotify in India and two of the top 10 podcasters of 2022 on Spotify. Please welcome Leeza Mangaldas, who's the sex podcast, is at the #1 spot, and RJ Balaji, whose Nalada Murku is at #6. So, Leeza, what are you planning to, how are you planning to build what you've created so far? And I must congratulate you because I did go through a few of your podcasts, and it is I love the tone, the tonality you have to the subject, the way you talk about pleasure, sex, body parts. I think the last podcast was on the nipple.
Thanks so much. Thanks for checking out my content. I mean, I am on a mission to create scientifically accurate, judgment-free, pleasure-inclusive information about sex, sexuality, sexual health, gender, the body. And I love that, on Spotify, people can listen to it for free. A huge part of my goal is for this to be extremely accessible. So, on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, actually, the user can get this information for free. They just have to look for it or maybe even chance upon it. And I think, in a country where the sex education in schools is extremely limited, people don't talk about sex at home. You have a lot of young people having to figure out everything on their own, from how to have safe sex to how to have an orgasm to navigating contraception. And this should be information that you have easy access to.
Yes.
It's important. And the absence of it has real and quite often damaging consequences, So I'm very excited. I mean, as a creator, my opportunities to make this work sustainable are limited. A lot of this content is considered like not advertiser friendly to be eligible for the automated ads on YouTube, for example, or, to be served to audiences without filtration on Instagram even. So for me, a platform like Spotify saying, here, we want your podcast to be a Spotify exclusive, and we're going to pay you to just keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to make any hard sells. You just do we will not intervene creatively. You say what you want to say, but we want to be the platform you put your podcast out on for free. For me, that was like the dream come true. Here's a platform just paying me to do what I'm doing. No other social media platform is really paying most creators to just post, where Instagram is like this platform we all update from Mark Zuckerberg every day for free, right? So I find it very exciting that here's a platform that's trying to capture an Indian audience and is creating podcasts like mine. Or they even have this amazing podcast called Should They See Gay? I think it's one of the loveliest podcasts I've listened to in a long time, and it's a Spotify original. So, I mean, I think that it's wonderful that platforms are, standing for something and creating original and exclusive content that might not be just the conventional, like run-of-the-mill, safe, I don't know, whatever. And look, it's the most streamed podcast this year, So I feel like it's paid off, right? I think it's important to try and create not just interesting and entertaining content, but also impactful content that's going to hopefully leave your viewer with something that's going to benefit them.
Right. Balaji, give us a sense of how podcasting is adding to your personal revenue streams. How do you see this as, as a full-time occupation even going forward?
I've never seen the podcast as my revenue stream. I'm so passionate about the medium. I do films, I act in films, I direct my own films, so I do that for revenue. So podcast is something that I do for passion. Like, for example, last year, we did a show on mental health, and I had this health minister of Tamil Nadu on my show. We suggested him, why can't we have a 24/7 helpline for the state for people to call up and say, see, I'm not feeling well. What should I do? Something like a call center. So he said, it's a good idea. I think we can implement, but I want to see how it is possible practically. Then in few months, he gave me a call saying that, you sir, whatever you suggested, we implemented that in the state. We have a dedicated helpline for mental health. So this was the most fulfilling thing for me, to take this podcast for a long time. Like, I think we can create a lot of difference. May not be as big as this, but even small difference to someone's personal life, if I can create change, or if I can make them feel good, if they can change the perspective, every South Indian film has a stalking scene. So if I can talk to a boy who's 17, 18, if I can talk to a boy at 17, 18 and say, see, this is not love. And if one person listen to it, I think that's my motto to take podcast, because I don't see it as a revenue platform. Even, I'm very happy that again, podcast, like earlier people used to ask me, Anna is brother. Anna, I want to become an RJ, what should I do? So after a point, it stopped, the question stopped. And now when I go to colleges, when I go to meet youngsters, they want to become a podcaster. So the trend is again picking. It's like football. You pick the ball, you can play anywhere. You don't need a fancy place to play. Same way, you got a mobile phone. A lot of people want to become podcasters. I personally, for me, and also to all the youngsters, I would like to say, don't make it as a medium to earn money. That is a bonus. If the content is good, the money will come.
I find both what Balaji just said and Leeza earlier, both of them, driven by their personal convictions and passion to create certain kind of information out there for people. And podcast is therefore personal and passion, it's about your own passion.
Yes.
But really, when you're actually offering people a large variety of podcasts, what percentage of podcasts would be people like Balaji and Leeza who are really doing something that's very personal? It starts from there. And then, of course, it gathers steam and momentum. But, and what percentage of it would be highly produced narrative podcast? For instance, what Serial did in the US in, I think, 2014, right? We don't have a moment like that yet here.
Yeah. So, see, Balaji and Leeza are very accomplished creators. And we have a large number of creators on the platform who are doing their shows. And that's where their passion comes through. They're very passionate about a topic and they speak about it. We also notice that in India, people listen to fiction and stories a lot. So we have done a lot of shows which are limited series fiction. Like there was a show that called Virus 2062, which is a sci-fi show about time travel. We did it with Richa Chadda and Ali Fazal. So like that's done really well for us. We did several other fiction shows, like most recently Commander Karan Saxena with Sonu Sood. So we are exploring those aspects of podcasting.
And they're getting a good response.
They are getting a great response. Because, see, it's end of the day audio, the theater of the mind. Once you kind of put the story in front of the person, they kind of sit back and enjoy it. So knowledge and learning is there, and fiction is, of course, a big thing. And, of course, non-fiction narrative. Like we have another show called Mahabharat with Dhruv Vaidya, which talks about different aspects of India. Like what is the Indian constitution, how many languages are there, X, Y, Z. So these topics. So this is scripted, but it's, again, narrated by
but a big breakthrough would really help the medium, isn't it?
Definitely.
And where do you see that coming from? Do you see investments, in terms of big, massive budgets and maybe in the narrative and fiction form that would create this breakthrough? What do you think would create this breakthrough in a country like India, given what kind of entertainment it consumes and how?
So,
Okay, soap.
My sense is
for 2022 on Spotify. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah. So see, I mean, based on the data that we see on the platform and what we hear from people, my sense is that it'll be more of a utilitarian show.
Okay.
Something that people can go to on a regular basis. It could be about learning. It could be, let's say, revisions. Like if we put out class 10 subjects and do 5-7 minute short revision summaries of chapters, that is what kids use to revise their lessons.
Right.
And that could be done across 15 Indian languages.
Interesting. So you're saying learning and utilitarian content is what is driving listenership for podcasts at this point of time?
Yes.
That's really interesting. Leeza, I'm going to have to close the show, but you get to have a final say on what this experience is going to be like, because you've had it now for a year. How do you see this evolve, especially with relation to or with respect to the content that you're creating?
I think that since video has had its moment, is, sort of the main form of digital content that people consume. And I think people are aware that the hyper distracted state that it lends itself to is kind of demanding on one's mental health and sense of well-being. And I really think that the podcast as an experience can provide a nice counterpoint to that. You can close your eyes, put your headphone in, have no screen to watch, and instead kind of use this as a way to unwind and be calmer and learn about something you're really interested in without it being like overstimulation. So one of my favorite ways to listen to podcasts is in bed before sleeping, headphones on, eyes closed. And I think that people are hungry for that. There's been, especially after the pandemic, just such an overload of content. Like we've had to rely on content and video for that it's like almost too much. And I think audio will be a nice relief. I really think it will become more popular. I agree with Balaji completely that it's here and it's here to stay.
Here and here to stay, Leeza, Balaji. Good luck to both of you. It's interesting the kind of work you're doing and getting to do because of the podcast. Dhruvank, thank you very much for filling us in on what's going on, and we wish you a lot of good luck.
Thanks a lot. And we're lucky to have Leeza and Balaji creating for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us on Media Dialogues. Catch us again, same time next week for another conversation. See you then.